Welcome back to the Sports News Analysis YouTube page. I'm back with my Week 14 NFL previews and predictions. I'm previewing every game this Week 14 in the NFL. You can always catch me on Twitter at SNewsAnalysis, at SNewsAnalysis. The Cincinnati Bengals will be hosting the Dallas Cowboys this week. Both teams coming off of really season-saving wins last week in Week 13. The Bengals coming off of a win versus the Chargers on the road by a score of 20-13. And the Cowboys defeated the division rival Philadelphia Eagles 38-33 on Sunday Night Football. The Bengals sit at 7-5 right now. They're in contention for that second wild card spot and for that sixth seed in the AFC playoffs. They're currently tied with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cincinnati is a team that many had penciled in for a letdown this year. I think given the division they play in and given that they played a little bit above their heads last year, usually teams suffer a little bit of a setback the next year. We have not seen that, though, with Cincinnati. They got off to a rough start. They've been playing well the last month or so. I like what we saw from Andy Dalton last week in the fact that he did not have a great game, but he was able to overcome that during the course of a game and still navigate his team to a win. Of note for the Bengals in the last month has been the increased production from Jarvis, Green, Ellis, which we think will be a factor in this game as far as the Bengals coming out and being able to establish the run against the Cowboys. The Bengals have, down the stretch, a very tough schedule. They have a game with the Cowboys this week, and then they close the season with the Ravens and the Steelers. So if they're going to, with the Steelers and the Ravens, they play the Ravens the last week. If the Bengals are going to make the playoffs, you bet they're going to earn it. It's going to be tough sledding for them coming down the wire here in the last 4 games. They always play hard. They always play better than you think in these big games, and we'll see how they react this week at home against the Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys, always the center of attention, coming off the 38-33 win last Sunday. They did lose officially center Phil Costa for the year. That makes 10 players from the Cowboys roster on injured reserve this year. Again, it's not an angle that's played up that much because nobody likes to really feel sorry for the Cowboys or make any excuses for them. But 10 players on injured reserve is an issue. With the Bengals defense, they lead the league with 39 sacks. And if you've watched the Cowboys played really the last 2 or 3 years, a big problem for that team has been the ability to protect Tony Romo consistently. And I think that's going to be a huge factor in this game, especially since the Cowboys have had trouble developing a consistent running game this season. I'm not saying it doesn't have the chance to be good. I'm just saying so far this season it hasn't been consistent. And I have to think that they're going to rely on Romo on the road here to have to put the ball up a lot. And obviously the more they put the ball up in the air, the more likely that offensive line is to break down. So I actually like the Bengals to put a lot of pressure on Romo this week. I like them to get to him early and often. I think the biggest matchup in this game will be Jarvis, Green, Ellis and that Cincinnati offensive line versus the rush defense of the Cowboys. And I actually see that matchup going to the Bengals in this case. I think they'll put pressure on Romo. I just think in general that Cincinnati is a more well-rounded team than the Cowboys. I just think they're not as highly publicized. And the fact that they're at home, I think, gives them an added advantage. With that said, though, the Cowboys always seem to play good when you least expect it or in those random situations. They seem to, at least until the last game of the season, they seem to rise to the level of their competition and play pretty well when you least expect it. But I like the Cincinnati Bengals in this game, -2. I like the Bengals -2 at home against the visiting Cowboys. I'll be previewing the rest of the Week 14 slate here. We're up now. I'll do the Pittsburgh game next because the Roethlisberger injury news just came out about 12 hours ago. So I'll do the Pittsburgh game next, Pittsburgh, San Diego, and then roll right into the 4 o'clock games. At S News Analysis, Cincinnati -2 at home this week. Thanks, guys.